Now, it's honestly been a little strange because for me, I don't understand like why any of those like things that you mentioned, suicides, like mental health problems, cancer screenings, things like that. Like whenever that gets brought up, it's sort of just it's not even considered. Like, if we had like a discussion about it, maybe people could say, okay, there's like a fair chance that the deaths from COVID, like in this hypothetical discussion, would be higher than the damage caused by this. But like to even raise it as a point for discussion almost is seen as denying the existence of COVID in some cases, or just being callous and like you want to kill everyone's grandparents. And like, why do you think that COVID has become like the biggest fear overall? Like any other, like everything has to be sacrificed in some like scenarios seemingly just because of COVID. Like why is there no balance there?
Well, I have a couple of theories. One is that, so, sort of early on, there was a question about how serious this was. And I think whether this maybe was a real risk to younger people, not the very elderly only, or I should say mainly. Um, and I could understand if this was the Black Plague, or, if something with the death rate of measles or mares had gotten around the world. Okay, well, we have to put everything aside and work to control this if that's possible. So I think early on there was a question as to whether it could have been like that, but very quickly I would say by the end of January we had data from China. We knew that this wasn't that sort of virus, so that doesn't ex- that doesn't explain what's happening now. I think the politics was a lot of it, and I think US politics, especially where Donald Trump sort of waffled at the beginning. He said he didn't seem to take it that seriously, and he went back and forth a little bit. I mean, he never knows, he doesn't know what he's doing at any time. But he's so reviled on the left, and rightly so. I mean, I understand why people don't like him. I don't like him. But I think that sparked this automatic reaction that, like, well, if Trump doesn't think this is that serious, it must be that serious, and it must be that we have to do everything we can, and anyone who doesn't agree is immoral. I think that's probably where it started, although it doesn't explain the UK or other countries, unless except maybe the Trump effect kind of, is broader than the United States.
I mean, I'd be skeptical about that, but yeah, it so then if it wasn't like the Trump effect, like solely, what were the other factors involved, do you think?
I mean, I think there was a lot of hysteria, as I said at the beginning. I think people just really didn't have a good picture of what was going on. And some people, I think, just got it etched in their brains that they were going to die of this if they got it. I have friends who are otherwise healthy, in their 30s, and really think that this poses a significant risk to them, even though the data is in. And if you're a healthy 35-year-old, your chances of death are like, less than a car accident, or things that we assume risks on a day-to-day basis.
Like one of the interesting things has been to watch the split between like people who seem to think that lockdowns are the way forward, and that like we have to take every measure necessary, and that basically that we all have to sacrifice like our freedom in order to save the vulnerable people, basically. And the split has been really, really not like exactly, but it's been almost along like party lines. Do you think that's also the Trump effect, or do you think that kind of speaks to something a little, like, I don't know, more philosophical in their like belief systems?
Yeah, I think it's the Trump. I do think the Trump effect is a lot of it. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we have numbers. We know what's going on here. Everybody is not going to die if we take a more Swedish type approach, or the approach Florida has taken now. So I think part of what's gone on is just a complete loss of rationality. And as you've sort of observed, an association of morality, with taking this position, which I consider the lockdown position immoral. I think it's oppressive of especially young people. Children they're the ones who are losing these crucial years of their lives. being told, being punished and judged for engaging in the most natural behaviors that are really important to their development, socializing, playing with each other unhindered. I really disagree with masks as well. I think there's like very little evidence to support them, and I think that they're particularly bad for children and their cognitive development. So I consider the lockdowners' position immoral in and of itself, and I don't understand how any rational or reasonable person can think that it's moral to look at only one problem and to discount all of the effects of approaching it in such a myopic way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little strange. Like from like a legal standpoint, like it mentioned, you say in your Twitter bio that you think that the lockdowns are a violation of human rights. Do you have like a more like specific legal explanation for that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know exactly what your constitution is like, but I think a lot of what lockdowns are doing are unconstitutional. I mean, they're depriving us of, we have the right, freedom of assembly. There are a lot of issues with religious gatherings, which have actually been successfully challenged. The government can't just take your property without any due process, and that's what's happened here. I mean, if you can't run your business for a year, you're essentially being deprived of your property. You're also being deprived of your right to earn a living. So these things are so fundamental that I don't think that the Constitution even contemplates them. I don't think that the founders ever thought the government's going to tell people, sorry, you just can't earn a living for a year or two, maybe. It's stunning to me. I mean, not to mention, there's a internationally recognized right for children to obtain an education. Children in New York City haven't been in school. Most children haven't really been in school in a year. The teachers' unions are threatening not to come back until fall of 2022. So that will have been a total of 2.5 years. Yeah.
Wait, is that serious? Are they actually like saying they're not coming back? Like they're not coming back. They mean like full classes in school buildings until fall of 2022.
Well, there's some indication they're going to refuse to come back until all children are vaccinated. And we know there's not going to be a vaccine for children, as there shouldn't be a vaccine for children because the virus poses no danger to them, and they don't, we know they don't spread it very, very much.
Right. So, but yeah, that's like what's happening with that battle? Are they threatening to go on strike or?
Yeah, I mean, they're just saying they won't come back. They're extremely powerful in New York City. They're extremely powerful. If they won't come back, there's not much anyone can do about it, as both the mayor and governor have learned the hard way, and the people of the city of New York. It's really unbelievable.
Wow. And is it just New York where the teachers' unions are threatening something like that, or is there a more like nationwide movement going on?
It's happening it's a big problem in California. Chicago, I think, has had, I pay the most attention to New York since I live here, but it's a problem in many, many blue states now. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, like, so we mentioned there before, or you kind of touched on the idea that it was like a way that a lot of the rules were perhaps a way for people to, I don't know, feel either safe or virtuous because they're expressing these views because they think it's for the benefit of everyone, or it's because it's the antithesis of what Donald Trump wants. Do you think there is like an element of people wanting to get on their high horse, where you see like lectures like on public transport or places? Like, do you think there is like an element of virtue signaling in there, or do you think like it's genuine, like either fear or concern from these people?
I think both. I think there's so much virtue signaling. In New York City, most people wear masks outside on the street, and everybody walks a lot in New York. I don't, and you'll probably see, if you walked around New York City all day, you would probably see me and one other person who wasn't wearing a mask on the street. So
really?
Yeah, everybody wears them. And I don't, fewer people wear them exercising, so you'll see runners a little bit more often, but most runners wear them. And I run without a mask, and people get very upset. There's something about the idea of, I guess you're breathing heavily near them or something. But so people constantly go up to me and tell me, and I also sometimes just don't wear a mask on the subway, even though it's the rule that you have to. I just see how much I can get away with it, because I think it's really important to rebel And unless more people start to say, I'm not doing this, it's never gonna, these mandates are never gonna be repealed. But yes, I think a lot of people really enjoy feeling superior to other people, and that's the impression I get.
Because that's been the suggestion of a few people. I saw Michael Malice, the kind of anarchist, I don't know exactly how you would describe him, like talking about it, and he was basically just like, it's a way for powerless people to feel powerful, and that's like, that for me, it's definitely got to be some of it. Like the best bit is when I've seen a few videos where people are like really terrified that someone's not wearing a mask, so they come up really close to them and and stand there and shout at them for a while. And you just go, if it was all about fear, you probably wouldn't be standing beside them.
I actually, a few months ago, I was on the New Jersey Transit, and they had a new rule that you could no longer drink water because you have to take your mask off. So the conductor would announce every few minutes, you cannot take your mask off. You cannot drink water on the New York City Transit anymore, because to do so, you have to take your mask off. And at some point, the train just stopped, and the same conductor, I recognized his voice, came up to a guy in front of me and said, you have to get off the train. And the guy was like, what? And he's like, you're not wearing your mask properly. I saw you before not wearing it properly. You're not wearing it properly. Now get off. And the guy was like, look, we're like between stops. The next train doesn't come for an hour. Please don't kick me off the train. I'll wear the mask. And the conductor wouldn't, this went on for half an hour. And so a train full of people was held up for this. And I could see the conductor was getting so much joy out of this. And he was getting so much joy out of this announcement. So I think you're really onto something. And so you get to have power over other people, and you get to do it on the guise of being virtuous and being better. And this in any other context, this would be recognized as just bullying. It's just bullying.
Yeah, I'm so confused. So they actually held up a train of like, I don't know, however many 100 people for like 30 minutes for this one guy who wasn't wearing his mask correctly.
Yeah.
What was the reaction from the people on the train? Like, were they getting mad at the conductor, or were they like cheering him on, or?
They were mad at the guy that he had done this. And like, there was an old woman who was like, my granddaughter's waiting for me. My granddaughter's waiting for me. Please move the train. Like, but he ended up getting the police, and the police escorted the guy. I mean, this is real. My friend, I was texting my friend, and she was like, take a video. I was like, no, then they're going to kick me off. I'm not going to take a video.
That is so crazy. The police came. I'm like, it's stories like this that make me mad, when people are like, oh, this isn't a police state. You're being ridiculous. And you're like at what point, like, what point do you start thinking, like, what is with the willingness of people to like, I can't believe people weren't mad at the conductor. Like, I would be furious. I'd be like, you cost me 30 minutes because of your crusade. Like, just let him wear the mask wrong.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN, and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget, my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.